What's up, YouTube? It's the Action Figure Grader coming back to you with another video. This time we're going to take a look at CGC-graded Star Wars comics and recent sales prices. As we've talked about in past videos, the comic book market is down, and there are good deals to be had if you do collect these comics. I was going to also include CBCS-graded comics, but there just hasn't been much data out there. The CGC-graded books tend to command the biggest prices, and they tend to have the most volume as it relates to eBay sales. So as you can see, I'm spanning the gamut, everything from the original Marvel run all the way to fairly recent releases. And I tried to include books that either I have in my collection or I'm actively looking for to add to my collection in the coming year or so. So lots of really good data, and I thought we'd just dig right in. The first one is Star Wars number 39. This is the adaptation of The Empire Strikes Back, and this is issue 1 related to it. And it's a pretty great cover. I don't like it nearly as much as some of the others, like Star Wars 23, 24, somewhere in there, which is the first solo story of Darth Vader. There's also the first meeting of Luke and Darth Vader in comic book format, which I believe is 35. So 39 came after that, and this is available in either the direct format, which you see here and has the Spider-Man logo, or if it has the barcode, that's the newsstand edition, and that's a little bit tougher to find. But I've got a couple of data points on this book because it is a worthwhile book. It's a pretty great cover with Darth Vader there, and it's got the big, bold Empire Strikes Back logo. And two of them did sell. Both of them were 9.8 grays with white pages. $264.95 was what this one sold for, including $14.50 shipping. And then this one also did sell for $269 plus $16.35 shipping. This was up in Canada. So again, data points. If you like this book, me personally, I love this cover, but I would tend to gravitate towards, I think it's 35, which is the first meeting of Darth Vader and Luke in comics, or the first solo story, which I believe is 23, but don't quote me on that. Go back to keycollector.com, keycollectorcomics.com, and check out which ones they are. But this would be the third on the list as it relates to Darth Vader or just the vintage books in general. This is kind of a secondary key that I think will always retain its value. It's always kind of hovered between $250 and $300, and that gives you a couple of good data points. Another one that's really held its value pretty well is Star Wars number 40. This is the first Rogue Squadron, and the first appearance of Rogue Squadron in comics. And again, it's another book related to the Empire Strikes Back adaptation. And it's got Luke there with the down snowspeeder with the AT-AT kind of looking at him. And again, this is the direct edition. It's got the Spider-Man logo there in the lower right-hand corner. But this one was also a CGC 9.8 with white pages. This seller had 4 available. One of them did just sell recently for $275.95 free shipping. And the price points range on the low end for a CGC 9.8 with white pages to $225. This is towards the upper end of the price range. And again, this seller has 3 still available in a CGC 9.8, and it's also make an offer. I think if you can pick that up for between $225 and $250, you're doing pretty well on that one. Free shipping again on that one. But that's another one I don't have in my collection. I do have 39, but I do not have 40. I'd like to pick that one up sometime fairly soon, along with this one. And this one is the newsstand edition of Star Wars number 41. This is the first cameo appearance of Yoda in comics, and again, the continuing adaptation of The Empire Strikes Back, showing the Millennium Falcon navigating the asteroid field with the Imperial Star Destroyer in hot pursuit, Imperial pursuit. And as you can see in the lower right-hand corner, it's got the barcode. This is a much tougher book to find in the newsstand edition versus the direct. And this newsstand edition was listed for $425. Best offer accepted. I did try to look it up on 130point.com to see what the best offer was that was accepted, but I could not find it. That website is a little wonky sometimes and always goes through maintenance, and sometimes stuff just doesn't show up. I'm going to guess that this one sold for about $375 to $400, somewhere in that ballpark. Now, the direct editions, those usually sell on the low end for $275 to about $350. So you can probably assume $375 to $400 for the newsstand, which is a little harder to find. But what a beautiful book. And I think this is worth every penny of that price. And if you can find it in the newsstand, more power to you. That's a really tough one to find. Really kind of anything after about Star Wars 35 or so, they become very difficult to find in newsstands because the direct editions in kind of the early to 1980 to 1983, that's when the direct editions started to really take off across all comics. So just always look for that barcode in the lower left-hand corner, and then you're dealing with a newsstand edition versus the direct edition. But that is a gorgeous book. I would love to add that one. And of course, I'd love to add this one. And this price, I don't know if this is legitimate or not, but it says it was a legitimate sale. And that's for Star Wars number 42, the first appearance of Boba Fett, obviously. And this was a newsstand, and this is a little tougher to find in a newsstand edition. Now, during the height of the book of Boba Fett, this book hit a price peak of $5,500 for a newsstand edition. Now, this is saying that this one sold for $7,500. So I question whether this is a legit sale or not. But it did listed as a sold, confirmed listing. But that price is well above the norm for a newsstand Star Wars number 42 in a CGC 9.8 with white pages. So to me, this is probably, there's something going on with this book. I just can't see somebody paying $7,500 for it unless they just didn't know the market, or, this one just sold on February 27th. We have the season 3 of The Mandalorian coming out on March 1st, so maybe someone just got really excited and didn't particularly care about overpaying, and they just wanted to get the newsstand for Star Wars number 42, and they were willing to pay a massive premium. But I can tell you that I would pay nowhere close to this price. I think in an auction that this book would sell for between $3,000 and $3,500. So that's how far off I think that this sales price is. But is it a gorgeous book? Yes. Is it the harder to find newsstand? Yes. It's a 9.8 with white pages? Yes. So I can understand the appeal. Don't get me wrong. But I just think that is way too high for the newsstand. Now, for the direct edition, you're probably talking anywhere from $1,600 to $1,900 for the direct edition versus the newsstand. So usually you can, the general rule of thumb used to be, when you're looking at direct editions versus newsstand editions for these 1980s books across all comics, not just Star Wars, it's usually about 2 times. But I think that number is shrinking all the time because the comic book market is down. So it used to be about 2 times the market value of a direct edition for a newsstand. It's probably more like 50 to 70%. Again, it depends on the book. An ASM, Amazing Spider-Man 300, a newsstand, that might be more than 2 times. I don't know, but anyway, $7,500 seems like an awful lot of money, but at least according to eBay, it's a confirmed sale. Another book I'd like to get is this one, Star Wars number 44 in a CGC 9.8. Again, this is a continuing adaptation of The Empire Strikes Back. I would call this one a tertiary key. But what you're really buying for this book is the cover. It's a fantastic cover. It shows Darth Vader and Luke dueling in Bespin. Look at the colors on that book. It's amazing. And what's little known about this book that I've mentioned in the past is that this is the first time that Darth Vader says to Luke that I am your father, because obviously this covers the adaptation of The Empire Strikes Back. So to have that kind of piece of collecting history as part of this comic book, combined with the amazing cover, and you can get it in an auction for $123.50 free shipping, yes, please. This is a great tertiary cover or tertiary book to add to your collection in a high grade. Just a really awesome book, and I think I'd like to get that one at some point. Now we're going to talk about Heir to the Empire. This is from 1995, obviously the adaptation of Timothy Zahn's groundbreaking book with the first appearance of Mara Jade, as well as Grand Admiral Thrawn and Jorah C'baoth in comics. Again, this is one I do have in my collection, and this was a CGC 9.8. This seller had 2 of them, both of them at auction, and both were 9.8 grades. So that's pretty incredible to see that happen. And this one sold on February 26th for $1,050 and change plus $17 shipping. And that's about market value. They're hovering anywhere on the low end. I've seen recently $800 to about $1,200. So this one was towards the upper end of the range. If you can get it at $800, grab it, because it's just really tough to get it that low. It was just kind of one of those sales that maybe there was something wrong with a case, or it had Newton rings or something, but or an old grade. It could be an old case. But this one sold for $10.50, and that's kind of right in line with market. And then the seller also had a second copy, and this one sold for $10.77 on 23 bids, and both of them closed the same time. This is a Dark Horse must-have book if you are a big-time collector. And again, adjust your budget to the grade. I'm only talking about 9.8s for this video because that's the data that I found most interesting and most recent. But they're readily available in a 9.6 grade. You can probably pay anywhere from, I'd say, $500 to $600 for a 9.6 grade, and then it goes down from there. But pretty awesome to see 2 copies of Heir to the Empire #1 in a 9.8 grade sell at auction. So you got some really good data points as to current market value. Next up is another kind of tertiary key book from the Dark Horse years, and that's Star Wars Republic #60. This is the origin of Asajj Ventress. It's got her on the cover. It's a great book, and it sold for $111.50 plus $17.50 shipping in a CGC 9.8 with white pages. Again, that's a very affordable 9.8, and I think it's just another great Dark Horse book to get in a high grade for a reasonable price. Another one is Star Wars Republic #65. This is the first appearance of Barriss Offee in comics. We will see if she shows up in the Ahsoka or Mandalorian Season 3 on Disney+, but this book has had a wild ride in terms of prices. It got up to almost $300, and now it's pulled back for between $125 and $150. Again, this one sold for $147.50 plus $17.50 shipping. Another pretty great cover with Mace Windu and Kit Fisto hunting the Hunters. So this is kind of after Order 66 or around Order 66 and the Jedi trying to fight back, but a pretty awesome cover. For me, this one's more expensive than Star Wars Republic #60, but for me, I'd rather have Star Wars Republic 60 over this one, just because it's a little bit better cover, in my opinion, and it's an origin story, which I tend to prefer over the first appearance of kind of a Class C character in Barriss Offee. Next up, we've got a few Clone Wars books that all sold at auction, so I wanted to cover those. Clone Wars #3. This shows Anakin Skywalker as well as Ahsoka in kind of in chains. They've been captured by some slavers. And it's a good cover. It's not as good as a few of the others we're going to cover in a second. But this one sold for $86. That's a great deal for a CGC 9.8. This is the one that I really want, though. And this is one I had in my What to Buy video last week or 2 weeks ago. This is Clone Wars #6. This is kind of the first cover where you see Ahsoka finally coming out of her shell. She used to be a Padawan, but now she's leading the charge. It's just an awesome cover, and probably next on my list in terms of the Clone Wars books I want to pick up. This one sold for $123.50. That's a great buy. I hope that one of you guys were able to pick that one up. $123.50 plus $17 shipping. That's a great buy. I would have paid that all day long if I had I have some other things kind of in process right now, so I'm trying to be good and not buy anything. But this book is definitely on my short list for one I'd like to pick up at an auction sometime this year. Next up is another one that I've mentioned in past videos that I'd like to get, and that's the Clone Wars #8. It shows Asajj Ventress getting ready to stab down in the frozen tundra against Plo Koon, and it's called Seek and Destroy. This one came out in 2009 from Dark Horse. So again, this one I believe is the first appearance of Clone Commander Wolf, as it says in the title there. That one sold for $105.50. That's another really great buy. And I think any of those kind of secondary or tertiary Clone Wars books in a high grade like that, those are worth picking up if you're into these comics. Next up is another one that's on my short list, and that's Free Comic Book Day, Star Wars, The Clone Wars from 2011. This is the first appearance of Savage Opress in comics, and it's got Savage Opress on the cover. Opress Unleashed, Free Comic Book Day, dark cover. A little bit tougher to get this one in high grade just because of the dark cover, but they're out there and pretty readily available. Usually you see buy it now situations for between $225 and $250. But again, as I've talked about in past videos, wait for auctions unless it's something you've absolutely got to have, because in an auction you're going to get a better deal, and this one is no exception. It sold for $187.53 plus $15 shipping. So roughly about $200 versus buy it nows of $225 to $250 on eBay. So that's a really good book and another one on my short list. Here is one that's in my collection, and wow, what a final sales price on this. This is a great buy. Kanan, the Last Padawan #6. This is the first full appearance of the Rebels team, including Sabine Wren and Era Syndulla and Ezra Bridger. This is all of their first appearance, first full appearance, and it's a great cover. It shows the full team on there. And let me tell you, I paid quite a bit more during the height of the comic book market for my copy in a 9.8 grade. This one sold in an auction for $355. Man, that is a fantastic buy and worth every penny in my mind. But keep an eye out for that one. Kanan, the Last Padawan #1 is the first cameo appearance of the Rebels team. But if you're going to only get one book, spend more money and get this one, because it's just an awesome cover. And the Rebels team, I mean, come on, guys. The Rebels team is amazing. I love the show. I haven't made it through all the episodes yet, but I think I'm on season 3, somewhere in there. Man, I just love the Rebels team, and this is the book to get if you're going to get only one book related to the Rebels. We can't have a comic book market update without talking about Dr. Aphra, one of my favorite new characters. And this one is the harder to find 4th printing. And at the height of the comic book market, this was going for between $1,100 and $1,200, believe it or not. And I said, there's no way I'll be able to have that much money at one time. And now they're going for $650. This is an awesome buy. This is a really, really low census number because they were not printed in big numbers. And I'm speaking specifically about the 4th print. Other than the 1 in 25 La Rocca variant, this is the most expensive first appearance of Dr. Aphra in comics, Darth Vader #3. The 4th print came out in January of 2016, so it's a fairly modern comic, but because it's so hard to find this one in a 9.8 grade, you do have to pay quite a bit of money for it. But paying $650 is a lot better than $1,200, let me tell you. So I think this was worth every penny, and just look for that purple cover. And there's 4 different printings. This is the last one. And of course, there's also the 1 in 25 La Rocca variant, which goes for between $1,100 and $1,200. Next up is another one I had in my What to Buy video a couple of weeks ago. That's the John Tyler Christopher action figure variant for Darth Vader #25 that features Dr. Aphra. This one, I said it would probably sell for between 60 and 80 bucks. It sold for $84.99 on 15 bids plus $12.99 shipping. So it's a little higher than I expected, but still, this is one that I would target because I think it will go up if and when Dr. Aphra shows up in Disney Plus content. It's got a much lower print run than Darth Vader #3, the first print cover A, and I just think it's a great cover to have. It's a beautiful cover. It shows her in action figure format, but I love the image there on that card back, and I just think it's a really good one to pick up. And again, this is one that, in all fair disclosure, this is one I do have in my collection. But $84.99 took that one home. Next up is another one in my What to Buy video, and that's the John Tyler Christopher action figure variant Wonder World Comics edition of Rogue One adaptation #1. And this is kind of an action figure 3-pack with Jyn Erso, a stormtrooper, and a Death Squad commander. And again, it was only exclusive to Wonder World Comics, so it's got a very, very low print run. And that one sold for 72 bucks in a CGC 9.8 plus $12.99 shipping. Another really great buy. That went for less than what the standard cover A goes for, and I can guarantee you there are much fewer of these on the CGC census versus the cover A. So that's a really great buy. Next up is Thrawn #1, The Origin of Grand Admiral Thrawn. This is another one I do have in my collection. This was another really good buy, $127 in an auction plus $17 shipping. So let's call it round number about 150 bucks. I think I paid $175 for my copy, and it's an epic cover. If you haven't read the new trilogy that features Grand Admiral Thrawn's origin story by Timothy Zahn, you need to read it. It's an awesome, awesome read. He's had 2 trilogies. I'm talking about the earlier trilogy that goes through his origin story, but I would really pick that one up for 150 bucks. That's a must buy. There's a lot of them on the census, so they're really easy to find. But Grand Admiral Thrawn is going to have an awesome debut, I hope, on the new Ahsoka series. So this is one to get. This was a really interesting one. This was Star Wars Solo adaptation #1, the photo variant, and it's signed by a bunch of different actors. It's signed by Alden Ehrenreich, I can't pronounce his name, the guy who played the guy who played Han Solo, Sam Witwer, Ray Park, Warwick Davis. I mean, it has pretty much everybody on there, and I think it also had Emilia Clarke signed on this one as well. Yeah, Emilia Clarke on the back. They ran out of space because so many different people signed this book that they had to put Emilia Clarke on the back, and obviously she played Kira in the movie. But I was curious to see what this one would sell for. It sold for $2,100 in a CGC 9.8. No way I pay that, but look at all of these signatures. That's unbelievable. They basically had the entire cast for Solo Adaptation #1, along with Sam Witwer, who I believe voiced, he either voiced or portrayed Darth Maul in this. I'm not sure, but pretty awesome to have both Ray Park and Sam Witwer sign this, along with all the other main characters, including Emilia Clarke. But $2,100 took that one home. Next up, I've got a few data points for The Mandalorian. Mandalorian #2 in the 1 in 25 variant. That one sold for $80, free shipping. And we also had The Mandalorian #1 in the 1 in 50 ratio variant. That one sold for $140 plus $11.45 shipping. So this is probably the more desirable of those two Mandalorian books. And again, this is one I do have in my collection. I don't have Mandalorian #2 yet in either the 1 in 25 or the 1 in 50. They're both great books, but this one would be the one I'd prefer versus the 1 in 25. But I would prefer the 1 in 50 of the Mandalorian #2 versus the Mandalorian #1, 1 in 50, because that one's a lot more expensive. It usually goes for close to $200. And then finally, we had the Mandalorian #2 in the 1 in 25. I got these out of order, but this one sold for $80, and then this one sold in an auction for $69 plus $13.99 shipping. So let's call that $84, and this one sold for $80, free shipping. So this was a case where the auction did not go for less than what a buy it now situation was. So I think that whoever got this buy it now at $80 got a good deal for $80 free shipping versus this one that sold for about $83 after shipping costs. So anyway, just a lot of really good data out there related to comics, related to the vintage Marvel run, all the way to fairly recent releases. Lots of good deals to be had out there. And if you collect these CGC graded Star Wars key issues, best of luck and happy hunting. Thanks again, and I'll talk to you soon.